1. Introduction. Cultural heritage and destination management do not operate in a vacuum. They are deeply influenced by the regulatory environment, institutional frameworks, legal systems, and public policies established to protect, manage, and promote cultural assets. Module 8 focuses on the complex web of laws, policies, governance systems, and institutional mandates that determine how heritage is defined, preserved, interpreted, accessed, and monetized. It explores international conventions, national policies, local bylaws, heritage charters, and traditional governance systems, identifying how they shape outcomes in both cultural preservation and tourism development. 2. Understanding policy and governance in cultural heritage. A. Policy refers to principles, guidelines, and strategies developed by governments and institutions to guide decision-making in cultural heritage and tourism. These can be cultural policies, tourism development strategies, land use policies, and environmental policies. B. Governance refers to the mechanisms, institutions, actors, and processes involved in making decisions about cultural heritage. This includes government ministries, culture, tourism, environment, etc., local government and councils, indigenous authorities and traditional rulers, international organizations, e.g., UNESCO, ICOMOS, private sector operators, civil society, and communities. Effective governance ensures inclusive participation, cultural rights protection, and sustainable use of heritage assets. 3. International legal frameworks. Numerous international treaties and conventions establish guidelines for the recognition, protection, and use of cultural heritage. A. UNESCO Conventions, 1972. World Heritage Convention protects cultural and natural sites of outstanding universal value. 2003. Convention on Intangible Cultural Heritage safeguards traditions, expressions, skills, and knowledge. 1954 Hague Convention protects cultural property during armed conflict. 2005 Convention on Cultural Diversity supports equitable exchange of cultural goods and services. B. UNWTO Frameworks. Global Code of Ethics for Tourism, Tourism for Sustainable Development Goals Platform. These conventions influence national heritage laws, tourism strategies, and funding eligibility. 4. National legislation and regulatory institutions. Each country typically has a national legal framework for cultural heritage. Examples include Antiquities Act, Cultural Policy Acts, Tourism Acts, Monuments, and Museums. Acts. Key agencies might include Ministries of Culture and Tourism, National Heritage Commissions, national parks and monument authorities, national councils for arts and culture. These bodies are mandated to register heritage assets, license heritage access, prosecute violations, and coordinate development. 5. Local and indigenous governance systems. Local governments often pass bylaws on preservation of historical buildings, zoning and land use planning, community festival regulations, waste disposal at heritage sites, business licensing near cultural assets. In addition, indigenous communities and traditional authorities often hold customary laws and taboos regarding sacred forests, ancestral shrines, or age-old festivals. These rules are often unwritten but crucial for local heritage governance. Policy must respect, integrate, and formalize such indigenous systems for sustainability and legitimacy. 6. Planning, impact assessment, and compliance policies are implemented through structured processes such as Heritage Management Plans, HMPs, Environmental Impact Assessments, EIA, Social Impact Assessments, SIA, Cultural Impact Assessments, CIA, Carrying Capacity Analysis, Tourism Development Master Plans. These ensure that tourism development projects, such as building a resort near a heritage site or hosting a major festival, do not damage local culture, ecology, or community welfare. 7. Community participation in policy and governance, heritage interpretation, and storytelling. Failure to involve locals often leads to resistance, conflict, and failure of projects. Policies should encourage bottom-up planning and traditional knowledge systems. 8. Financing cultural heritage through policy instruments. Governments and international organizations use legal and policy tools to incentivize and fund heritage management, such as heritage conservation funds, tourism levies or taxes, public-private partnerships, PPPs, subsidies for conservation, cultural and creative industry grants, concession models for site operations. The balance between financial viability and cultural integrity must always be maintained through transparent regulation and audit systems. 9. Cultural rights and ethics in governance. Cultural policies must also guarantee rights to access and enjoy culture, protect indigenous knowledge systems, maintain cultural expression without discrimination, avoid commodification or distortion of sacred heritage. Governance should not marginalize communities or prioritize tourism over tradition. Ethical considerations include respect for sacred sites, consent before filming or photography, credit and compensation to culture bearers, gender-sensitive 10 challenges in policy and governance. Despite frameworks, many challenges persist. WAC enforcement of laws, corruption in tourism concessions, overlapping institutional mandates, lack of capacity at local levels, exclusion of traditional governance models, lack of data and monitoring tools. Capacity building, reform, digitalization, and better coordination are crucial for progress.